We are the nerds. We are the nerds of the apocalypse.
My name is Hunter Goranson. I am Valiant's Director of Marketing and Communications. We have a big panel of guests here with us today. Joining us at the far end of the stage is Mr. Rafer Roberts, writer of A&A, the Adventure. Next to Rafer is Louis LaRosa, artist of Bloodshot Reborn. Brian Reber, colorist of Bloodshot Reborn. Dinesh Shamdasani, CEO and Chief Creative Officer of Valiant. And Robert Venditti, writer of Exo Manowar and Wrath of the Eternal Warrior. So we have a lot to share with you guys today. We've got a lot going on this summer, but a few weeks back we kicked off con season with a really big announcement, 15 exclusive creators at Valiant. Dinesh, why does a company that only publishes 8 to 10 books a month have such a sizable and formidable stable of exclusive creators?
For anyone that doesn't know Valiant, we are a company that prides ourselves on storytelling, so it's really about the quality of the books, the quality of the creators that we can bring on the books and the characters, and a commitment to the creative community. Also, it stops other publishers from stealing all of our guys, which they try and do constantly.
We have two of those guys here with us, Louis and Brian. We're both part of the group. Brian, what has your experience been like working at Valiant for going on 3-4 years now, is it?
This is my third year.
You've been there, it almost feels like from the beginning.
Yeah, it does feel like it's been from the beginning. Not quite. I came in on the second arc of everything. It's been wonderful. It's nice to have job security. And it's nice to have a constant workflow, and it is constant. So it's been a great experience.
Cool. Louis, you just recently made a big return on Bloodshot Reborn to Interiors. Have you enjoyed your time at Valiant working with Warren and the editorial team?
It's been my best experience in the industry working at Valiant, and with all the editors and guys like Brian. They allow me to do my best work. They schedule me so that I can do my best work and do stuff that I'm proud of and feel good about making. So it's been awesome.
Have any of you guys been reading Bloodshot Reborn?
Yeah.
So, this summer we have a big event coming up. Hopefully you guys have realized that in a very short time, Valiant's gotten a really big reputation for doing some of the best and most accessible comic book events every summer. We started with Harbinger Wars in 2013. Then in the following summer, Rob here handled Armor Hunters. And then subsequent summer, Rob also worked on Book of Death, which by the time all was said and done was the most successful event from an independent publisher in more than a decade. Really a stunning achievement on multiple fronts. And this summer, we have coming up the Summer of 4001 AD, an event that's going to take place entirely in the 41st century of the Valiant universe. Pull back from the world that Matt Kint and Clayton Crane have been building on Rye, and really reveal what the 41st century holds for the rest of the Valiant universe. Dinesh, I know you've been working closely with Warren, our editor-in-chief, as well as Matt and Clayton on what to expect from 4001. What do they got coming up?
So 4001, as Hunter said, is our big event this summer. It's a story that it comes out of Rye. Rye is our title. It takes place in 4001. For anyone that doesn't know, the story of 4001 is that we have two parallel timelines in the Valiant universe. The present-day timeline, which most of the books take place in, and then the 4001 timeline takes place in the year 4001, at which point Japan has become one structure. It's taken off into space, become a second orbiting satellite to the Earth, like a second moon. It's controlled by a sentient AI named Father and policed by a lone policeman named Rise, like a future samurai. And the story that's been building there is that there hasn't been a murder in 1,000 years. The first murder happens, Rise has to track it down. In tracking it down, he realizes Father is not as benevolent as he seems, and he tries to stop Father, but ends up being thrown out of Japan and left for dead on Earth, which has become, from what we can see, desolate. So 4001 is the story of Rai putting together a band of heroes in the 4001, on Earth in 4001. We get to see the Eternal Emperor, which is the Eternal Warrior Gilad in the future in the year 4001, as well as a number of other special guests. We get to see Rai jump into a giant Exo Manowar
battle suit.
mech suit of armor to blast off into space to fight Japan, as Japan transforms into a dragon-shaped battle station.
This is in like the first 15 pages of issue 1.
Yeah. So it's a big crazy book. We're really excited about all the stuff that comes after that because it's equally insane. But that's the tease that we're giving you guys. So if you like transforming sentient city-sized battle stations and mech warriors patrolled by futuristic samurais, this is a book for you. Oh, we forgot the dinosaurs. Lewis, there are dinosaurs in this book. Japan is made of all these sectors, and the sectors are essentially anything that's ever occurred on Earth. There's a prehistoric sector. And as Japan starts to fight this battle, the sectors are jettisoned. And the first sector to go is the prehistoric sector, which crashes to Earth, and you see dinosaurs falling out of it, burning up in the atmosphere, which is always fun. Some of them do land on Earth, though.
As drawn by Clayton Crane. So, as you guys know, Clayton's been doing some phenomenal work at Valiant on Rye over the past 2 years. We specifically scheduled Rye around his schedule so that he could maintain a creative, consistent vision, artistic vision on that book. But with 4001, he's really like kicked it into a whole new gear. I think this is some. I mean, we'd love to show you some pages. There was a technical malfunction, unfortunately, but
imagine, close your eyes and imagine the most awesome day.
And we have 4001 giveaway books at the booth, so you can scope out some of Clayton's pages in there. But really, really, just mind-blowing stuff.
But that's not all. We've got more than just 4001.
So the summer of 4001 AD. There's 3 components to it. Each one is completely self-contained. So at Valiant, we try to make sure that our events are as accessible as possible, that you don't need an index to figure out what's going on. So you can just read 4001 AD. If you've been reading Rye, highly recommend that you pick up that book. Or if it's your first Valiant book, 4001 AD #1 is an awesome place to start. If you want to find out more about Rye, though, there's a new arc of Rye beginning with issue number 13, which is going to come out a couple weeks after the first issue of the event in May. And that's going to be by Matt Kint and Keifu. Another one of our exclusive artists, a very, very talented and super awesome superhero artist that's going to fill in the origin of New Japan, as well as who the Rye are, how they were created, and how they came to be. Dinesh, I know you know some secrets about some of the new Rye that Matt's been cooking up.
Yeah, you're going to see, the Rye that we know is Rye 10. That's the one that we've seen in 4001. You'll see some of the other 9 Ryes. You'll find out what happened to them, why Father created them, why they ultimately are not around anymore, what happened to them. It's a really heart-breaking story. It's very moving, the one that Matt's building in Rye. Kafu's doing a great job. I don't want to spoil it, though. We get to see the first Rye, little Astro Boy Rye.
There's a little Astro Boy Rye. There's a super cool female Rye named Sai.
There's a crazy Rye. It's an insane, crazy Rye.
Yep. And then there's that one. There was one that's now in issue 15 that really got people excited when they first saw the first design. Who I think is one of the coolest looking characters to come out of Valiant sometimes.
So we're gonna what we try to do with the events is we build the story, the main story, that's all you have to read, and then with the supplemental material and Rob's work on Armor Hunters was a perfect example of this. We try and show you the characterization of what's happening behind the scenes to flip your perspective on what's going on, to make you feel like I don't know who I'm meant to like and who I'm meant to hate anymore, and to build a richer tapestry for the story.
And then the third component of the summer of 4001 AD is going to be 4 standalone one-shots. So you're going to get, each one of these is going to feature a future incarnation of one of Valiant's biggest characters, in a completely self-contained tale. The first one is going to be Exo Man of War, written by Rob here, with the great Clayton Henry. Rob, what do you have in store for the final chapter of Exo Man of War, as it were, in the 41st century?
I don't know how much I'm allowed to say. A lot. But, yeah, so our tie-in issue is going to track partially the history of what happened from anybody who read Book of Death, which everybody in here obviously read Book of Death, because as Hunter so eloquently said, it was the most successful, I don't know, but
sounded real good there, didn't it?
The Ninjak tie-in issue showed the launch of Japan into space for the first time, the launch of New Japan into space for the first time. And so what we're going to do with the Exo Man of War issue is track Valiant's history from that moment up until Earth's first, I guess you would say, counter-strike against New Japan. And so the armor that you see, that you were just referencing, the giant mech armor that Rai gets into, we're going to find the history of that armor, what it was like, how it was made, how it ties into the Exo Man of War mythology, and also see, I don't know, can I say there's more of them? Okay. So like at that time, like a lot of the countries in the world all had their own sort of individualized mech armor, and they launched this big assault against New Japan, and we see what the story of that is. And it's basically the backstory of the mech armor that we see in 4001 AD #1. It kind of tells you the story of that piece of armor.
Cool. And so, interestingly enough, you're working with Clayton Henry again, who handled a similar X-O Man War one-shot with you last year for another feature tale that we did around Book of Death. How does this story line up with that, and maybe even the other work you've been
Yeah,
doing?
no, it's pretty cool because even with that Book of Death issue, we also expanded on the mythology. We introduced the person who's going to wear the armor after Eric passes away someday. So it's kind of cool to have Clayton back and to be able to go into all these different offshoots of the mythology that you don't really ever get a chance to do in the series. You know, they're not Elseworlds tales or anything. They're actually in continuity. These things that are going to happen. They're just because you're not at that point in the story, you're not going to tell them in the main book. So it's cool to be able to have these tie-ins to be able to do that. And I guess this will be the last one where I do get a chance to do that. So it'll be somebody else's turn next time. But
I wouldn't shut the door.
no, I wouldn't show you.
Cool. And Brian, you're going to be doing this with Clayton Henry, right?
Yeah, no, I just figured
Me and
we'll get
Clayton
into it
again,
and do this.
reuniting since Ivar Time Walker.
So, what was your first book with Clayton?
My very first book at Valiant.
At Valiant, yeah.
What was my first book with Clayton at Valiant?
Might have been back on Archer and Armstrong or something?
No.
Harbinger Wars.
Harbinger Wars.
Yeah. So do you like working with Clayton? Is he one of your, do you have the same kind of collaborative process that you have with him as you do with Lewis?
Clayton just lets me do whatever.
He trusts you.
Yeah, he trusts me. Clayton he always requests me, and then usually when we talk, we're talking about video games or cars. We don't talk about the book. So that's a good thing.
On the clock too.
And so there's the EXO one shot comes out in May, and then the second one is going to be in June, which is 4001 AD Bloodshot, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Doug Braithwaite, two of our big guns at Valiant. Brian, you working on that one
And
too?
I'm coloring that one too. Yeah.
You're going to talk about it?
Me and Doug talk about the book.
So Jeff has cooked up a really, really crazy future incarnation of Bloodshot. This is not the Bloodshot that you guys have been seeing in the pages of Bloodshot Reborn. This is what happens to his nanites long after he is gone, and they have one final mission. So as you guys, if you've been reading Bloodshot Reborn, you've seen that that's a really down-to-earth kind of gritty take on the character of Bloodshot, whereas in 41st Century, it's going to be a really high concept.
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually going to be carrying the load as far as Bloodshot's look, because Doug's basically drawing a head, and then I have to fill in the rest. It's all nanites. It's all nanites that compose his body. So he gives me a rough outline of where things should go, and then I have to figure out how to make it look like
Yeah, we have an artist at Valiant named Ryan Lee who's done a ton of heavy lifting on 4001 AD and designed a bunch of new characters for the project, including this future incarnation of Bloodshot.
Close your eyes.
Dinesh, can you say anything else about the Bloodshot one shot?
Yeah, so we told this, one thing we should say is we're talking a lot about Book of Death, we're talking a lot about Rye. You absolutely need to know that there is nothing you need to read before you jump into 4001 or Rye 15, the Scarlet Tie-ins, or the one-shots. You can read them without knowing anything. You can read Book of Death without having ever read anything before. You can read Armor Hunters without having ever read anything before. We really work hard to make sure that you can do that. We feel very confident you can. Everything you need to know is there. You're not missing anything. If you read more, you unravel this larger tapestry, which is exciting.
I think you guys have actually developed a structure that's kind of unique in that regard, in how you handle events, like the way we do it with Book of Death, the way you're doing it with 4001. Like structurally, it allows it to be very independent of each other like that, you know?
Yeah, it's become a little bit of a science, and we have such a talented crew of creators that they're able to do this crazy agility, this crazy backflips to be able to do this. So that's the first thing we should say. Having said that, if you read Book of Death, the Bloodshot one-shot, you'll see that we charted the future of Bloodshot very quickly, just small snippets all the way through his life until seemingly his death. This is canon. This is what we will eventually, over the next year, 2, 5, 10, 20 years, show you and expand on. So when we were talking about Book of Death, we were talking about 4001 Bloodshot, we were trying to figure out what to do with a character that could die thousands of years prior to that. and Jeff had this fantastic idea to play with the nanites that are in his blood. Bloodshot's powers are, he died, his body's pumped full of nanotechnology, and he brought it back, now he's control of his body. The nanites continue, and Jeff has written this really, really emotional story about the nanites, and they've been docile this whole time. They've finally been released because of what's going on in 4001, and now they're forming this person that isn't Ray, isn't Bloodshot, that we know him as, but they have one last mission that he's given them. And it's really going to be, I think, a big moment when you guys realize what that mission is. It's going to be very moving. So I think it's going to be one of the best books we've done.
Cool. And then coming up in July, we have a 4001 Shadow Man one-shot. We have any Shadow Man fans in the house? Awesome. And so we've handed the reins of Shadow Man over to 3 of our rising stars at Valiant. Jody Hauser, who you guys know from Faith, Robert Gill, the artist of Book of Death, and Mr. Rafer Roberts, who's co-writing with Jody. Rafer, what you got in store for Shadow Man? I know a lot of it's top secret, but tease what you can.
All right. Dinesh, you have to just yell at me if I start talking. Give it to me.
I'll make animal noises.
All right. So this is probably the most I've actually given away of the story.
Woof.
All right, that's it. Thanks for coming. Prior to the Shadow Man 4001, there had been a deadside invasion upon Earth. And now there's a deadside encampment city in the 4001 world where it's sitting next to a city of the living. They have tenuous treaties between them. They trade help, power, sort of what do you call it? Like a fish feeds off another fish.
Parasite?
Yeah, symbiotic. Thank you. Jeez, it's been a long show. Yeah, writer. Thanks. And so the two cities have been living in peace for about 1,000 years now. Very tenuous peace, but a new leader has woken and is riling people up, and now that peace is being threatened. And that's where the story begins.
Cool. So you're going to get a glimpse of an all-new Shadow Man, or maybe even a Shadow Woman in the 41st century. It's going to be a lot of fun. And finally, coming up in August, we have a top secret book, 4001 AD classified. Creative team is top secret. The character is top secret. But what we can tell you is that it's going to feature the major debut of a major new character for the Valiant universe. Last year we introduced a new character called Divinity to popular acclaim. It was one of the big hits of 2015, and I think that really set the tone for saying that when Valiant gets behind a new character and introduces them, it really is an event that people should pay attention to.
I think so. Is anyone a Divinity fan in here?
So we'll be revealing more about this book very soon, the final classified one-shot that's coming in August, but Dinesh, can you tease out anything about what he or she, our creative team, may have been working on?
Yes, you guys are going to love the creative team. Fan favorites. You've been begging for this creative team. The character's awesome. It has one of the best things is it has a sentient sniper rifle that has a very strange, annoying personality. And that contrast brings, it's a lot of fun. The story's awesome. It's very self-contained. It's got a very strong forward momentum. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. I think at the end of it, you're gonna be begging for more of this character, which is good because we have a lot more of this character that we have to tell. Evidenced by the fact that this character, even though we're telling a 4001 story, appears in Book of Death, not in 4001.
Yep. So back in the first issue of Book of Death last year, Rob here got a little sneaky and created these future glimpses of the Valiant universe, and you and Doug inserted a bunch of new characters into that spread. This character is one of those that appeared in a flash forward of what the future holds for Valiant. So I know we told you all that Book of Death would be a big roadmap for the next decade or so of the Valiant universe, and this is the first time that we're really going to start to see that play out. Rob, do you have any feelings on those
I hope
teases
it's
that
the
you
Beast
put in?
Brigade. That's all I'm saying. Right? That's what it is. You know. I hope it's Matt the telekinetic dolphin. Fingers crossed.
Damn, you just...
Everybody else can see that guy, right? I'm not the only one.
Yes.
He's here just for you, Dinesh. So that's 4001. We're really excited about it. You guys can get a glimpse of this on Free Comic Book Day. Our Free Comic Book Day book this year has an exclusive prelude story that'll get you hooked on Book of Death by Matt Kinton and Clayton Henry, and then it's going to feature sneak peeks at the rest of the big stuff that we have coming up for the rest of the year, including A&A, some upcoming Bloodshot Reborn stuff, as well as some top secret teasers of things that we cannot talk about yet, but it's going to be a very exciting book and a good way to kick off a big event this year. But that's not all that we have coming up this summer. As you guys know, we are in the middle of a massive story arc in Bloodshot Reborn called The Analog Man, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Louis colors by Brian Reber. Louis, we were talking a little bit about this last night. What has your experience been coming back to do full-length interiors at Valiant for the first time in about a year?
I think I'll be able to look back on this and be real proud of trade and feel good about handing it to people. I'm kind of always down on my stuff, and I'm always like I'm embarrassed to look back on it, but you guys have let me work real hard on it, and Lemire's scripts are a blast to draw. Brian makes it look how I would like it to look, and or better, and I'm just it's all on the color. I just love the way it's turning out. I just feel real proud, and I'm kind of honored to be working with Lemire. He's super talented. It's got everything in it that I love drawing. I'm not drawing guys standing around drinking coffee in suits like it was in The Punisher, and it's got my kind of Bloodshot's my kind of character, I guess. I grew up on 80s action movies, and so this I feel like I could channel all that stuff I grew up on into the character, and Jeff writes such awesome action sequences, and it all has really cool emotional weight to it. So I'm proud of it.
Bloodshot Reborn 12 comes out in a few weeks. We just sent it to the printer while we were here at SC ComicCon, and there's 2 double-page spreads in Bloodshot Reborn that I thought were absolutely nuts. So there's one of Bloodshot getting kicked out of a plane at like 10,000 feet.
Where were you going to see these slides?
Yeah, we were going to see the slides. I'll just describe them to you in immaculate detail. And then one of Bloodshot and Ninjak fighting off a bunch of guys in football pads.
That sounds
awesome. This whole issue, this is my favorite issue I've ever drawn. It's just action from beginning to end, and he wrote some crazy stuff in it. Like I said, the emotional weight behind it too. There's just a lot of heart to the stories he's writing. But the spreads are fun because it takes me forever to draw them, but the descriptions just draw the coolest action scene.
So Brian, what has it been like working with Louis?
It's
the best, isn't it?
Funny enough, it's kind of been 15 years in the making of me and Louis actually doing interiors on a book. We got a tease when we did Bloodshot 25. Louis and I tried to work with each other in 2001, way back in the day. Louis was at BC and he was pitching Firestorm, and he wanted me to color it, and it completely fell through, and then we never worked with each other until we both got hired from Valiant, and we didn't know we were both working at Valiant at that time, and then we just got talking, and I was like, then we started doing covers for Harbinger Wars. Right. That's when we started teaming up. So we've been pestering Warren to put us on a book together ever since we found out that we were at Valiant. So we were both having a blast, finally getting to do what we want to do. And Bloodshot, the Lemire script it's crazy. Yes. Action-packed.
It looks
to the wall.
Yeah, it looks absolutely phenomenal. We've been doing conventions all month long, and it's not uncommon for us to walk up to the booth in the morning and find very, very prominent comics artists from other companies lingering around our booth and asking if they can get copies of Bloodshot number 10 to take a look. So hopefully you guys dig it. And if you want to see any of Lewis's pages, which is some of the most hyper-detailed artwork that I can remember ever seeing in comics, he was kind enough to bring a few to the show, so you guys can check them out at his table. And also, a few months ago, we put out a director's cut of the first issue of The Analog Man, which features all of his black and white art reproduced with Jeff's scripts.
Yeah, those pages he has are actually from issue 13.
Yeah, and there's a big spoiler in issue 13. That's all part of Jeff's long-term plan for Bloodshot. He has a 25-issue plan, of which the Analog Man was a central piece that we've been working on for about a year or so. Big things coming up soon for Bloodshot Reborn.
Is there any, I'm just going to interject with something off topic, but is there anybody in here, I get asked all the time, anybody who wants to be a comic book professional, like a writer or an artist or anything like that? Anybody? Yeah, there you go. All right. People ask me questions about that all the time, you know. And what I always say is like to be humble about it, and what I mean by that is to understand that you're never going to have it all figured out because it's art, right? So here we're listening to Lewis, and he's talking about his own art, and I think we would all agree by looking at his books that it's probably the awesomest things any of us have ever seen ever, you know. And even when you go look at the originals and you see how he does the rendering with the markers and everything, like it's really stunning to look at. And as I'm sitting here listening to him talk about it, it's like he talks about his own stuff and he sees the things that he wants to improve. It seems insane to me that he doesn't know that it's the best thing in the world. But that's what it's like, you know.
And man, if you thought that way, I mean, if you thought you
would stop
great,
improving,
you would,
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
You wouldn't be any.
Yeah. So like if this is what you want to do, that's what it's like. Like you're never going to solve for X. You're never going to have it figured out. The only way you always get better and are always is to challenge yourself and always see the things you want to be better at. Yeah. And I think that probably holds true for all of us up here. It was just hearing you express it in the face of something that we all could agree is completely 100% awesome. Is interesting to see it play out like that.
Well, working at Valiant, this is like phase 2 of my career. I started off in comics in the early 2000s and left and became a public school teacher, and it was Valiant that Warren called me back, or Warren called me out of the blue, and when y'all were starting up, and he was like, I want to pull you back in. And after a while, I was like, okay, I missed this, but I was like, I told myself, I just want to be proud of what I do, and give it all 100%, and you guys allowed me to do that, but also the level of talent that you guys have at Valiant makes me work harder. You guys put out like what, a dozen books a month?
9.
Okay, yeah, not even. So you work for Marvel or DC or whoever, and it's like, what do they do? 60, 80 books a month, something like that. Yeah, okay. It's crazy, and it's like just turn it in Tuesday. We just we need to get out this many books a month. Just turn it in, and you kind of feel like you're just a little cog in this giant machine, but at Valiant you feel like every panel counts. Every it's just inspiring to feel like what you do matters, and the fans are so passionate too, and you guys really study this stuff, and I feel like I owe it to everybody to do my best work. I don't want to be a weak link or let anybody down. I think a lot of guys working at Valiant must feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, like Hunter asked earlier, like, what's it like working for Valiant? And that's the big thing, is it's a small company, and we feel like we have more at stake at house, as that's what the books are, as opposed to, like, I worked on X-Men for 7 years, and you can put anybody on X-Men, it's going to sell a certain amount. But with XO and everything, I feel like I have to do my best to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward every time it's a stand.
The whole company, everyone, all the way down the ladder, is just looking to make great books. We all feel like the characters deserve it, you guys deserve it. Life's too short to make books that aren't good. The Warren that everyone's talking about, we should mention, is Warren Simons, who's our editor-in-chief, who started as our executive editor, is now editor-in-chief, one of the most talented men in comics. He's a phenomenal storyteller, so we just want to make sure that we mention him.
And speaking of good books, we also had it kicked off 2016 with a series that a lot of people has told us has become very special in a very short time. Faith. Have any of you guys been reading Faith? So the first issue came out back in January, and in that time, Faith has become not just a comic book series, but kind of like a worldwide pop culture phenomenon. She's been picked up and covered everywhere from BBC to People Magazine to The Guardian to The Today Show to The Washington Post. What do you think it is, Dinesh, about the story that Jody Houser and Francis Portela and Marguerite Sauvage have cooked up that has really made Faith spring out of Harbinger and into a life of her own?
I think there's two things. It's interesting. Faith is 25 years old, and a lot of people don't really know her because she appeared in Harbinger, and Harbinger was this big name. People know Victoria Horata, Pete Stanchek. And so we did this book because we love Faith. Everyone in the company loves Faith. We want to tell a story about Faith. But I think it's two things. One, Faith is the kind of character you don't see very much today. Batman vs. Superman just came out. I'm sure a lot of people saw it. It's very dark, very morose. Faith is the exact opposite. There's a lot of characters like that in the world today, even some of our characters. Faith is very optimistic. She's very confident. She's a hero in the truest sense of it. She believes. She's read a ton of comics. She's watched a ton of TV, Doctor Who, superhero movies. She loves all that stuff. And she's learned the lessons that I think maybe some people get jaded at. With great power comes great responsibility. She believes that. So that's the kind of storytelling you don't see much anymore. People really responded to that. The other thing is also, we don't really make a meal of this in the book, but she has a body type that you don't see often. She's a plus-size superhero. She's a little larger. And it's interesting to see the impact that's had. We had a woman that came by the booth in Chicago, C2E2, and she was in tears. She was absolutely in tears. And she said she'd been reading comics for 25 years, or 20 years, whatever it is. And she loves Wonder Woman. And it took her 10 minutes to get this out because she was crying so much. But the Faith meant so much to her because she never realized in all those years she was reading Wonder Woman or any comic books that she didn't see herself. She thought she was seeing herself in the characters, and when she saw Faith, she finally for the first time saw comics reflecting her back, and now she says it's difficult to go read other books, and it's a great thing, but it's also a great responsibility for us. We've got to make sure we do it right, so we're going to endeavor to do it right, but I think that's one.
But the book has really caught fire. It leaked out over the weekend on some of the online news sites that we've now gone to. We'll soon be going to a 5th printing of Faith, which puts it in the class of, there's like only a handful of books in the past decade in comics that have gone to that many printings, including some of the biggest names out there. So that's a real testament to the strength of the book and the creative team and the character. Dinesh, what do you think? Do we have any more plans for Faith beyond issue 4?
Big plans. Big plans. Can't announce it yet. Big plans. Maybe like next week we'll talk about it.
Maybe like next week. And then coming out of Faith, we moved on to a return for another big set of Valiant characters, Archer and Armstrong in A&A, The Adventures of Archer and Armstrong. So Rafer, how did you come to find yourself working on our merry band of globetrotting adventurers?
Sort of a weird entry point for me into Valiant. We'd been Justin Jordan and I had been doing some backup stories for the various anniversary issues where he'd been making fun of all the various Valiant heroes and characters. And as you mentioned before, the fans are awesome and working for the company is incredible. So when I saw that there weren't too many anniversary issues coming up anytime soon, I kind of sunk my claws in. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. Sent a collection of my writings to Warren just for the hopes that he'd let me at least pitch something. And I'm still not entirely sure that this isn't like all of you guys in some sort of elaborate practical joke, like the world's greatest catfishing experiment or something. He went so far as to actually print the book because it still is so amazing to me that I get to write The New Adventures of Archer and Armstrong that it just doesn't feel real, but it's absolutely a dream come true, and it's amazing.
Cool. And so you got paired up with an artist that we think is very special, David LaFuente. What is that process been like? How has your collaboration gone so far?
Man, he is absolutely amazing, and I've said it before. The way he draws makes me look like a better writer because he has such a good instinct for telling stories on the page and extracting the emotion, and not necessarily following my panel-to-panel actions. I think if anybody's read the first issue of Archer and Armstrong, there's a fight scene on page 25 that in the script I believe was 4 panels. On the page it's 26, which is absolutely amazing. And since it doesn't give me any extra work, I like it. I'm not sure that.
Yeah, Brian, does that saddle you with any extra responsibilities when it comes time to work with David?
Yeah, he likes to push the panel count, which is interesting. Is usually you try to keep the panel count down, but Dave's like, no, we're going the opposite direction. But Dave is actually one of the more interesting artists that I work with because he has all these European influences, and his reference library is really deep, and he pulls out artist names that I've never heard before, and he's like, you might want to check this out. And then it's like going down a rabbit hole that he's just guiding me down, showing me all these different artists to draw influence from. And we'd actually talked a really long time before we even talked to Warren about how we wanted to color the book. And that's the style that we've ended up with is I must have recolored pages 3 or 4 times, going back and forth, just trying to nail something that I'm comfortable with, that David's comfortable with, that Warren, Dinesh, and everyone else was comfortable with as far as the appeal and aesthetics of it. But the names he was dropping on me, I would sit there and spend 3 hours a night Googling things on the internet, just looking at different art that I've never even seen before, and just going like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to please everybody? It's a lot of pressure, but it's pushing me to learn things, which is great, and it's forcing me to work in a different, break the mold. I've been rendering forever, so now that I get to change it up to sort of animated style, it's kind of nice. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I think it's gorgeous.
You spend more time coloring this. Do his take the longest for you to color since his work's so open? And like
you would think it would be faster
on his pages,
because it's an animated style, but then he just packs so many things. Like I'll be drawing things and I'll be coloring and still discovering things in the background. I'm like, what is? Oh, that's that. But he packs so much tiny little details, and he's consistent from panel to panel. Which usually when you have people packing all kinds of details, it's hodgepodge from panel to panel, page to page. It's not the same thing. But if he draws a bottle next to the bedpost, that bottle is going to be there all 20 pages, and then he just keeps adding bottles.
So Rafer, you packed into the first issue alone. I think you got the Infinite Satchel in there. You got the infinite library of whiskey bottles. Mm-hmm. You got some golems, some gnomes, the God of Intoxication. What else is coming up in the rest of your art? Oh, and I forgot the Talking Mackerel. Of course.
There you go. Yeah, it seems people seem to like Davy the Mackerel. He's a little sad sack fish man in a $5 thrift shop suit. He's actually, I treat him like he's like dessert. Like if I can write everything else, and then if I can have a Davy scene at the end, I just kind of save it to the end. When I walk away, I'm like smiling to myself, like a doof. Yeah. He's also fun because when I write, after I get the first pass through, I'll actually go through and reread it out loud to myself just to make sure I get dialogue cadences right. And I think we did a live reading out at Chicago, which was a lot of fun, actually being able to do that for real in front of other people instead of just me in front of my cats. So 'cause they don't care. They're like the worst writing partners in the world, and my wife just gets sick of me after a while. So, but yeah, also coming out of the bag, issue 2, we'll see there's a giant robot being driven by a baboon that the Sisters of Perpetual Darkness have to fight and keep from destroying the crappy motel that Archer and Armstrong have been staying at. There's also another mystery character that makes an appearance coming out of the bag, who might be recognizable to some people. He's definitely based on somebody, but for legal reasons, I am not going to tell you. But he's awesome, and when you see him, be aware, like everybody who comes out of the bag, I have long-term plans for.
Awesome. And then, so issue 2 comes out in a few weeks, and then coming up in A&A number 5 in July, we can't say much about it yet, other than to say this is going to be a big milestone moment for the Valiant universe. We had a really cool teaser image we would have shown you. I'm sure Rafer and Dinesh would be happy to act it out at the booth for you later. But I can tell you that it's going to feature the debut of a very prominent artist doing his first work at Valiant that we're all really excited about. And it may feature one of the other characters that we've been talking about up here today. Rafer, any more to add, buddy?
So this is the one I really don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about, but
Tell us who the characters.
I can tell you who the characters. Oh yeah, Faith shows up.
Yeah.
So, it's a very special issue.
It's a very special issue.
It's a very special issue. It was actually probably of all the comics I've written, it's probably one of the more personal issues I've ever. Mostly because I've kind of based it on when I first started dating my wife. So there's some nice little sides in there for that. So.
And if you're a Faith fan, you'll be able to get.
Nope.
I did realize.
But and then the summer isn't just all going to be future space dragons, giant suits of mech armor, or post-apocalyptic ninja battles. We also have something very, very special coming up in Exo Manowar. Do we have any Exo Manowar fans in the house? So as of a few months ago, I think it's official, Robert Venditti is officially not just the longest running writer of Exo Manowar in Valiant's 25-year history, he is also the longest running writer on a single character at Valiant ever. Can we have a big round of applause? Come on. Yeah. So part and parcel with that, we also announced that Rob is going to be wrapping up his 56-issue run on Exo Manowar. That's 50 issues plus a bunch of one-shots and annual, etc. With the final arc beginning in July, or June, I should say, beginning in Exo Manowar 47. Rob, what do you have in store for the story that we're calling Long Live the King?
It's going to be the culmination of everything we've done on the book so far. You know, going back all the way to issue 1, we introduced a lot of subplots. Some of them that we've explored further, some of them we haven't. But you're all going to be able to go almost arc by arc and see all the different status quo changes and plot lines that we did for Eric throughout, I guess, going on 5 years now, and have it all come back together and tie together in one final story in a way that hopefully doesn't feel forced, because it's something we've been planning for quite a long time anyways. If we knew that it would tie together for quite a while in this way. So it's we're going to see the arrival of the Torment, which is this race of godlike beings that were thought to be mythological. We're going to find out that they're real and that they have come to Earth, and why they're here and how they're connected to the armor and by extension to art is hopefully something is going to be surprising for everybody, and also kind of give you that satisfying close to the series.
Cool. And Rob is going to be working with two people who are new to Exo Manowar. Joe Bennett, who's a big artist at DC, has worked on many of their key titles, including 52, and then Roberto De La Torre, who you guys have seen work for us on Shadow Man and the Death-Defying Dr. Mirage. Can you say a little bit about the format of the book? Have you guys confirmed all that stuff yet?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, but it's... Yeah, let's not.
Okay. But the final arc of Exo Manowar, and especially hitting our first 50th issue, is a really, really big moment for the company, and a testament, I think, to the strength of the work that Rob and all of the incredible artists who worked on the title have done. To celebrate it, we've put together something that's really special to make each one of these issues as jam-packed as possible. Dinesh, can you talk a little bit about the countdown giveaway that we're planning, beginning with 47 and counting down to 50?
Yes, we have a cover for Exo 50. To celebrate in proper style, we decided we would try and build the greatest cover of all time. So we have a jam piece with 50 different artists doing 50 different Exos on one cover, surrounding these Exos. We're going to break out the different Exos, the 50 top artists. We don't want to say who they are yet, but there's some more guys, some new guys, some guys that have never done work at Valiant before. A lot of the guys that have Valiant stable. It looks awesome. Can't wait for you guys to see this. We're going to break them out, all 50 of them. We're going to print them on little micro prints that look like this.
They're about 4x6, come on really nice cardstock.
And we're going to insert them into issues 47 through 50. So you'll be able to get a mini print of one of these XOs when you buy the issue. Also, as a thank you for supporting the book and for helping us get to 50, which is a huge feat, especially in modern comics, we're going to be including randomly, we're going to get a ton of these in, so they're not going to be as difficult to get as some of the other publishers have done. We're going to try and make them very easy to get. We're going to be including original art pieces here, some from Carrie Nord that he's done for us. So these will be randomly inserted into the books, and you'll be able to get these. We're going to try and get as many as we can. And this is called the
Exo Man of War 50 Countdown Giveaway.
But we're going to do a ton of these. So Carrie's doing some, Rob's doing some, Sarah's going to do some, hopefully Lewis and Rifle will do some, Hunter's going to do some.
I've been forced to do some.
Everyone's going to do some, so we're going to try and get a lot of these in. So there's a good chance that you guys will get one of these.
Yeah, if you pick up an issue of Long Live the King, the final arc of X-Men War, it's not just going to be like 1 in 5,000, 1 in 10,000, or even 1 in 1,000, or even 1 in a couple hundred chance that you might get one of these. There's a very good chance you could wind up with a piece of art, hopefully not from myself, but from a really big Valiant artist or someone who we've never worked with before.
So someone who actually knows how to draw.
Yeah. Dinesh, do you want to?
Yeah, yes, we're going to give one away right now. So, Robert's going to give one away.
We have 4 sketches here by Eisner Award-winning artist Carrie Nord. Rob is going to pick which one we're doing for.
All right, so we're going to give this one away. We need a trivia question. Rob, do you have an extra animal trivia question?
A piece of access.
Should I ask what the name of the baby was? Everybody can say that one. What's the name of the baby that in Exo number 1 gets swapped out for the first vine planting?
Hands up if you know it. Ooh, tough question again.
It's a deep cut. Don't play Trivial Pursuit with this guy.
What? All right.
Pull that issue out.
Here's an easier one. Oh, are we gonna give this guy time to actually reference it, or move on to the next
I
question?
think you should count down.
Okay.
Count down.
No, I don't want him to get all panicked and tear up his time. All right, so no, that. Damn.
You just put it out. All right,
And
so
that's why you
you go,
always
Matt.
carry a copy of Exo Man.
Something like on this. Thanks.
Cool, so that's what we have for you guys today. We have a few more minutes left for questions. Happy to answer any questions you have about a specific book, one of these guys' work, or anything Valiant may be up to. Who's got the first question? Let's see your show of hands. Yes, sir, and the greatest t-shirt ever.
Yes, indeed. I've been a fan of Guild of the Eternal Warrior since I was 12 years old in 1992. So I'm really digging Wrath of the Eternal Warrior.
Awesome.
I thought the first arc was fantastic. I'm really excited for Labyrinth. Are we going to see Guild back in the mainstream Valiant universe in his own book, or just kind of like he normally does, popping up in other people?
What do you mean? Like actually
Like
in the present day, kind
yeah,
of?
like interacting with other folks.
Yeah,
He's going to be kind of on his own.
Yes, he will definitely be interacting with other folks. It's a question I get a lot, and I have no problem revealing the answer to it, but a lot of people seem to think because of 4001 AD that the Labyrinth he wakes up in might actually be the future, but it's not. He's in the present. We'll see him interacting with a new take on a classic villain from the original Eternal Warrior run. But yeah, there's already plans. Actually, I was just talking with Warren the other day. I don't even know if he's talked to you about it yet. For the arc coming up after Labyrinth, to have a pretty big get together with him and some other characters as well. So.
Cool. Yes, sir.
Want to make sure I've heard you say something correctly. I came in late, so I apologize if you already talked about this. But I've heard a lot of like speculation about whether Book of Death is really happened or not. But it sounded like you said that, at least in the Bloodshot issue, that it was canon. Is that right? So all those events are real events and can't be rewritten?
I mean, my feeling on Book of Death, like, speaking for myself, when I wrote those flash forwards and when I wrote specifically the end of Exo Man of War, me as the writer who has written more Exo Man of War than anybody ever. Like, that to me is that's how he's going to go out. He's going to have a daughter and she's going to get the armor. He's going to turn into the ball of armor that his daughter's going to wear. Like, I didn't just throw that out as some what if. Like, and I think that tracks with the arc of his character as we see him develop. So yeah, to me, I think that's how it goes, So.
All the stuff that you saw in Book of Death, it takes us a long time to build a story, build a character. Like Divinity was a long time. all the arcs you're seeing Analog Man, a lot of gestation goes into it. We have a very long process, which is why I think the books came out very strong. So we have a lot of things in the mix. What we did with Book of Death, we got everything we had in the mix together, everything we've been talking about building in various stages. We said, you know what, let's tease all of it in Book of Death, or a lot of it in Book of Death. So everything you're seeing there is stuff we're actually working on. It's not like we just came up with a name. No, that name came from, there's pages and pages and meetings that have gone into each one of these things, and not for Book of Death, prior to Book of Death. We just happened to slot it in there.
Yeah, I mean, going to the writers' retreats, which I've been at since the beginning, you know, I know what a lot of the plans are. And I didn't just go throw them in there. Like, I would check with individual writers and individual books and be like, is it cool if I do this because I'm giving this thing away or whatever? But it's all stuff that, and some of it has already happened. You know, some of the stuff in Book of Death has already popped up in some of the other issues. Some of them are going to be in issues that we're talking about on this panel that you haven't seen yet. But I know because of being in the writers' retreat. So yeah, it was probably the hardest, whatever that first flashback was, it 8 pages or something like that? It's probably the hardest 8 pages I ever had to write, honestly. It took me forever to figure out how to do it, and there was actually a whole other thing too.
You were 16 pages.
Yeah. I don't know if that's ever going to see. I don't know if we're ever going to see that.
Well, we'll see that. No, so that doesn't mean that every single thing that you see is going to happen. The best idea wins. We can come up with better ideas. The way that it's structured in the book is, Tama reads the Book of Death. She tells you what the future is. The end of Book of Death, the story itself, that changes a little bit. The Eternal Warrior and Tama, they defeat Dark. Dark turns into that awesome tree thing, and that changes things a little bit. It sets a ripple off. How much of an impact that ripple will have? Does it negate everything? Probably not.
It definitely doesn't. Some of it's already happened.
Right, some of it's already happened. But things may change a little bit. But you're going to see a lot of it. Lewis has been in our ear all weekend about dinosaurs and about bloodshot.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, right?
You heard it here first. Okay, time for one last question. Yes, sir.
I was curious about Faith getting a gold book. Usually the minis y'all do don't get gold books. If Faith got one, so I was just curious, does that mean ongoing, or did she just get lucky?
You're very observant, sir.
When you try to collect all the gold books, is something you notice?
Yeah.
Hopefully y'all got something for us.
Ask again in a week. Ask again in a week.
Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, one last one.
Quantum and Woody left off.
Nobody cares about Quantum and Woody. I'm kidding, because that guy's sitting right here.
That guy, he has a name.
I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead.
Quantum and Woody left off with kind of a cliffhanger. Big one. We haven't seen him back since. Are we going to see him anytime soon?
You sell them a little bit, and you need 25, which tells you where they are. They're in Hollywood trying to sell the Quantum Woody movie. We are working on a Quantum Woody book. And when it's ready, we'll announce it. We love this guy, so we'd love to see him come back.
And the goat is still very much pregnant.
Yes. So Hunter, password?
Password, yeah. So that's what we have for you guys today. Thank you all for coming. As a special thank you for you guys taking time out of your con to join us here, I'd like to give each of you a special gift. We have a special limited edition gold book waiting for you guys at the booth that we only give away at panels or for showing support for us at cons, etc. But in order to get it, you have to give one of the gentlemen in one of the Valiant t-shirts, or me or Dinesh, the secret password. What's the password, Dinesh?
Exo Man of War.
Exo Man of War. Don't shout it out though, you gotta whisper it. Like we're a national treasure. So we'll see you at the booth. Come over right now, get your gold book, and let's have a big round of applause for everyone.
If anyone wants a sketch, Lewis is at his table, Rachel's at his table, Ryan's got prints, Bob's got books for sale.
I got nothing. So.
When are we going to see Brian Weaver do your art?
Panel's over, dude.
45. Nerds of the apocalypse. The boys and nerds of the apocalypse. They are the people choices. Yo. Nerds of the apocalypse, they are the people choices. They be the eyes, ears, vessel, and the people voices. New gen, taking it back like Eazy-E. Trex, Preach, Showtime, and Stevie B. Food for thought, News feed them like a commissary, going viral, providing killer commentary. A pack of nerds is the clique that I'm rocking with, the only tribe that can stop a zombie apocalypse. Movies, comic books, sitcoms and anime, giving you live streams from England to Santa Fe, taking over the states in alien invasion. Need Steve, Hiller, and John Connor to balance the equation. It's game time, doesn't matter the occasion. We put the podcast on blast, heating up the stations.